So the Minnesota Twins. I assigned an article to one of our writers yesterday about the fact that Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, and Royce Lewis were all healthy at the same time. Let's jump on this. We don't know how long we'll have. And I mean, the worst possible news, Royce Lewis, a groin injury, leaves last night's game. We don't know. I mean, let's actually start there before we talk about the division. How frustrating and disappointing is it? Because you hear him after the game and they ask him about it. He a guy that typically can be optimistic. The last time he got hurt this year was, I think I'll be back. It was, well, I don't know. I usually get awful news. So we'll see what happens. It's devastating for the Twins and just for baseball fans that are watching this guy that has shown glimpses of being a top 5, top 10 player in baseball when he's on the field, but he just can't stay on the field.
It's so rough for him to have to deal with that, and for baseball fans at large, right? Baseball's better with a healthy Royce Lewis, and this is an important time for his career to not establish himself as this name or to build some kind of reputation, because I think he already kind of has this reputation, despite not maybe having the numbers and a big league track record to show it. But this is a time for him to like build this resume as far as his development and what is he going to be? Could he be a 50 home run guy for a season or two, or is it a 40 home run guy, or because of all the injuries, he just stays at a 30 home run pace, which is still, again, a great career. It's great to be able to have that even as a number 1 overall pick. There's guys who've never even been in the majors who've been first overall. We know the MLB draft is a crapshoot. So that's where there's some disappointment and frustration, is that we won't know what the healthy Royce Lewis version would be, if he was able to stay on that kind of trajectory. But even still, it's just disappointing for him, because one of the best abilities to have, and again, he's got that hit tool, solid defender, came up as a shortstop, moved over to third base. But one of the best abilities to have that he is showing that he does not have, and is one of the biggest reasons why there are plenty of names out there that we've never heard of. And yet people will say, oh, you should have seen so-and-so play. They were one of the best in their generation. Yet nobody's ever heard of them. It's because they lack the ability of availability. And that is so crucial. And we don't really know what goes into that, what makes certain guys maybe more injury prone than others. But he lacks the ability to be available. And that's just again, disappointment for him, frustrating for him, for Twins fans, for baseball fans. And that's going to have an impact on this AL Central race going forward, especially if the Twins are going to make a run at the Cleveland Guardians.
We got 23 games out of Royce Lewis since he came back from the last injury. He hit 9 home runs. It just shows you the potential, a guy to be able to have a 10 home run month, which is what he was trending towards in about that type of a sample, would have been double digits. It's so frustrating, and especially for a franchise that has dealt with this year over year with Byron Buxton, a guy that at times you'll see, oh man, Byron Buxton can be the best center fielder in baseball. Byron Buxton can be the best player in baseball. He's just that good, and he can't stay on the field. So I don't know what's going on. I'm sure there's some fans that are blaming the training staff in Minnesota. I don't know who you could blame. It's probably just some really unfortunate set of circumstances, but it's a team that has so much talent. And as we look at the division race, it's been sort of a foregone conclusion, right? The Guardians are going to win this division. The Twins are right there. If there's a team that can make a run, it feels like it's the Twins over the Royals now. And a big part of that is Carlos Correa is back to being himself. He's been there, stable force, a guy that's been playing in all these games. And you look at his numbers since the month of May, he's hitting 320. So Carlos Correa all of a sudden looks like the guy that got those big contracts from Minnesota, and that might carry them despite the fact that Lewis is not going to be available for some time potentially.
Buxton is having a strong month. Carlos Santana as well. Even Willie Castro.
Yeah.
Just one of those guys you plug in and you say, oh, now you get why they were able to trade Jorge Polanco to Seattle there. So they're getting those contributions from those guys. Trevor Larnach even is hitting third in their lineup, the last couple of days. So look, they're going to be okay. We know baseball, that's one of the beauties of this game and sport that we love, is that it takes more than just one player. It takes more than just three. There's no such thing as a big three when it comes to baseball. You need contributions from everybody. And so Minnesota is going to be okay for the time being. It's definitely going to hurt their push going forward. I know in the second half, they've got a harder strength of schedule than the Cleveland Guardians. So that's going to obviously make things a little bit more difficult for them going forward, but they've still got several more matchups, and that's really where they can make up some ground. I know the Royals, when they played the Guardians, we were really hyped up at that series, and it did not go well for the Royals, and that put them just that much further back. The Twins, that's going to be one of those spots where, all things considered with the injuries, they can make up serious ground if they can take a series, or if they can even sweep the Guardians the next time they line up across from one another.
I think it's 8 more games, 2 different 4-game series that these two teams play. And so, yeah, if you sweep them, or if the Twins just win each of those series, that's going to be some big ground that they can pick up. With Cleveland, we have a lot of questions about their rotation, but their lineup has been so good. Having Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, David Fry, they've really found a group that works for them. I feel like the Twins lineup is not that far off, and it might even be deeper, but still the Guardians, with their great bullpen, have been able to manufacture, I think, some better pitching. What do the Twins need to do at this deadline to try to catch them? Because they have a pretty decent rotation. If Pablo Lopez pitched like himself, that might be the only thing that they're missing from really taking off. But it's funny because I don't necessarily see where the Twins need to shore up their roster. But if they get a couple pieces in here, I still think that the Guardians are a team that can be caught, especially if Cleveland's not aggressive themselves at the deadline.
As you said, it's almost superfluous to try to have an upgrade where you say, hey, we're okay right here, and we think we can get better production out of this player. But to go out and make an upgrade like that, it might not be necessary. Bullpen is just the one spot that I see a need to upgrade the rotation. As you said, you're gonna go ahead and bank on the fact that those guys are going to continue to pitch well. Simeon Woods Richardson is going to be there and continue to do that. But one of the things that they could do that I'd be shocked if they did, and I don't even know who this person would be, but to be on Cleveland's level, and we're gonna look at this in just a little bit, power hitters for teams, but take anyone as your number 3 for the Cleveland Guardians, because you got Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, and fill in the blank. You like those 3 a little bit better than Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, and Royce Lewis, partially because of those injury concerns, partially because of the inability for Carlos Correa to be consistent. We haven't really seen that full season in Minnesota yet that he was able to provide in Houston. So they just lack that little bit of extra oomph that I think the Cleveland Guardians lineup has and rotation has. I mean, they've got the luxury of sending Tristan McKenzie down to the minors to be able to retool because their pitching depth has been so good. They're also doing it at a time in which I think there's a Tristan McKenzie bobblehead coming up this weekend in Cleveland. And they're like, great, we're trying to win a pennant here for Stephen Vogt. Like, he's our guy. He's the skipper. He's the new one. We're also doing it for Terry Francona because he has shaped this roster and the development of so many of these young players just as much as well. So the Guardians are going to go after it. I think they're going to make those moves on the edges to fortify anything that they need. A lot of guys can get injured between now and the July 30th trade deadline. You hope that doesn't happen, but that does seem to be the trend right now in baseball, with just anyone and everyone getting hurt. So I don't know if the Twins can match the Guardians at the deadline. I don't even know if they will try to attempt that because, again, these small market clubs, they can't totally mortgage the future to go after it. But bullpen for the Twins, same thing for the Guardians.
It's going to be a really close race down the stretch between these two clubs. And I think ultimately at this stage, we have to just look at what we've seen so far. And the Guardians have simply been the better team. They have whatever it is, the magic going where they find their way to win series, where they have a big matchup like against the Royals, like you mentioned. And you think, man, all right, this is Kansas City's chance to show that they're just as good and they can contend. And the Guardians handle business. So we'll see if they continue to handle business and hold on to that division race. I think if you compare the Guardians to the Mariners, who we talked about before, I like the Guardians' chances better to hold on to their division lead.